Good morning and welcome to another day in Bizarro World, aka the Matrix, where everything is inside out, upside down, inverted, where the crazy seems sane and the sane seems crazy. So, it's an interesting time here in Melbourne. It's an interesting time in Australia. It's an interesting time across the world, but we fluctuate into how interesting the times are where we currently are, and Melbourne is getting a bit of a battering at the moment. I say Melbourne when I really should say Victoria, but I don't know whether they have intentionally separated Melbourne from regional, so much so that one doesn't really have a lot of connection with the other. They've probably done that intentionally. So I'm not sure how regional feels about things. I imagine probably just like here, there are some that are aware, there are some that are not. But we are having mass marches. You've probably seen them. You've maybe attended them. They're extraordinary. Easily 100,000 people last Saturday. Peaceful. A beautiful gathering, an outpouring of love, of unity. People of all colours and from all around the world. Amazingly beautiful speeches by an Aboriginal man who was like, welcome, glad you're awake now, let's get to work. Just extraordinary outpouring of love and unity. And this weekend there is another march, and this weekend there is a counter march happening at the same time against right wing, extremist right wing, against white supremacy, neo-Nazi kind of folk. Here's the bizarro thing. My husband marched with me on Saturday against losing our freedoms, against, fighting for all of our freedoms, adding his voice for all of our freedoms, adding his brown-skinned body to fight for freedom, for everybody, for equality, for unity, for the right to choose. He's made choices that have affected his work life because of the right to choose being so important to him. And this week, he has a family member marching with the I don't want to say opposition, because this is what I'm going to get to. So this person's marching with this other march, the counter march, right, against the neo-Nazis that have. And here's the thing. The people that have been marching, many of them have a perspective of the people that are in this counter march. They're all Antifa. They're all whatever. There's an idea of who they are, and the human aspect of who they are gets lost. The counter march folk have an idea of who the other side is, and the humanness gets lost. Because what happens is there is an intermediary, the government and the bodies that spring out from that, the structures that benefit from division, because they control the narrative. This is why the whole lockdown, this is why the whole social distancing was so vital. You cannot pit people against each other when you leave them to their own devices to find the unity in each other. When they are left to connect, what we always find, always, is how we are so much more similar than we are different. If we were able to sit together and speak calmly and in a loving environment, we would come together beautifully. And that's why they cannot have that. Now the marches are getting more and more powerful. The groups are getting bigger. You've got, people in wheelchairs, you've got elderly with walkers, you've got babies strapped to mum's, chest, you've got every age group, every colour, you've got every spectrum of society marching. And the unity that that is creating is such a threat to the government that they have to keep up with this neo-Nazi narrative. And so then that sparks the people who are like, well, I want to make sure that I lend my voice to getting rid of that element of society, that I lend my voice to getting rid of racism. And then, so what the government does is they kind of like pit the two against each other. It's almost like a dogfight. Rev the dogs up separately and then get out of the way. And that is what has been happening to us for such a long time. And I want to remind you, whoever controls the narrative for you controls you. Whoever or whomever, however you say that, whoever controls the narrative for you controls you. So make sure you control your own narrative. Make sure you go through life every day. Have your emotional ups and downs. When I heard that this person was marching this Saturday, I had a massive down. I wanted to cry. I felt like, felt defeated. Okay, feel that, respect it, honor it now. What's here? What's here? Why is this person thinking this way? Just like people on this side are thinking that way about this person. Why is this? Because it lends itself to that government, that conflict narrative that keeps us pitted against each other, keeps us stuck in the current situation, keeps us easily manipulated, because keeps us divided. And when I control the narrative, which is what I got myself back to, hang on, I just gave the narrative away. When I control the narrative, when I go through life going, I'm going to decide what this means, I'm going to decide what this means, I'm going to decide what this means, not someone on the TV, not someone who's in charge of a, great big corporation that benefits from me thinking a certain way. No, I control, I decide what this means. And I have seen nothing but an outpouring of unity and love. And I'm going to look at the countermarch as a group of people who've been manipulated into thinking a certain way about this group, and the government are just, and then they're going to stand out of the way. And you can bet that every mainstream media outlet will be there this Saturday for what happens when they stand out of the way. Breathe. Breathe. Look for the unity. Don't play into it. Much love.